All right, welcome everybody. I am Pato, and with me is my co-host for this week. It's going to be Elman Beastio and Atlanta. We're going to be breaking down a big patch for you. It's going to be patch point 30, and this one is ginormous, so we might as well just get started. New cards, Magnetize coming in here. It's a new card for Lyonar, 1 cost. Move any minion in front of your general, so you're going to be able to pull guys up in front of you, make them kneel at your feet. Sivril the Exile, brand new card. Actually, if any of you guys know Deceptical, this is his card from Kickstarter that he kickstarted out here. 1/4 range minion. You get to pull the Scorpion and pull people over to you. And then we have another new card, Consuming Rebirth, where you can destroy a friendly minion that it'll come back with +1/+1. So plays into a big part of their Death Watch. So I'm gonna pass this one over to Atlanta right off the bat. What do you take of these cards? Which one of these cards do you think is gonna have a big impact, or will all of them?
I think Silver is really interesting. Being able to pull guys to your position means that you can make a lot of kind of cool Hearthstone juxtaposition type plays, but in any faction, which I think is kind of important to some of the factions that are lacking reach, but also because in the factions that already have it or misposition or type spells can use Silver really effectively. Like for instance, using it in Songhai, you can pull a unit and you can backstab it, things like that. I think it's a really cool unit to set up plays. Its stat line is a bit low, so you can't just play it and hope that it's going to pull its own weight without anything else to combine it with. But I think that you could set up really cool plays with it, like Heart Sister, Jux, or Mist Dragon Seal. You can like pull a guy and then Mist Dragon your own guy away from the action, or like the other way around. You Mist Dragon Silver into a corner and then like pull the other guy to the corner as like a pseudo removal. So I'm really excited for it. Oh, and the other one is to pull units out of formation for Star's Fury or Blast. Kind of like how you can repulsor things into Blast, you would be able to silver roll people away from good Star's Fury or Blast positions, and then kind of like set yourself up for it. So I'm super stoked for the card. And as for Consuming Rebirth, I think it's a really interesting card as well. You can use it with like a Zorhorn Shaman to give all you guys health buff instantly, or you can use it on Sarlacc to give yourself another Sarlacc, which is gonna be kind of ridiculous, but I'm kind of excited to see kind of what the silly things that'll happen when you use the card. You could also use it. Okay, so it's at the end of your turn, right? So you wouldn't be able to use it on something big other than if it had a Death Watch. So like if you use, or not, sorry, a Death Wish. Like if you use it on a Vorpal Reaver, you get all the Wraithlings and you get another Vorpal Reaver, which will also then spawn more Wraithlings. It's like, ooh, that's pretty high up there.
Yeah.
So that one's I'm pretty stoked for. So yeah, lots of cool combos you can do with that one.
Yeah, I think the other one that jumps to my mind is Spectral Revenant, because it has Rush, so you can get value out of it, and then kind of like it won't have immediate impact when it comes back, but it'll be like bigger and kind of better. So it's like a big unit that you could potentially like get value out of still. So like, I mean, I think the card has tons of synergy for the faction. But Element Beastio, talk to me about Magnetize. What do you think effect this is going to have for Lyonar players?
So basically, like Atlanta was saying, factions didn't reach basically what Lyonar wanted, because their range removal, there's always some issue with it. And for example, Decimate, the opponent could just position near the general. The Lasting Judgment, it's damage cap, right? It better be killing people who are at 3 or less. Same for True Strike. Tempest hits your own guys, right? And only deals 2 damage. So Magnetize is kind of like this like super cheap answer that could answer huge threats by just janking them into a position where you're already dominating on the board. So I find it like really convenient, because the limited reach that cards like Lasting Judgment might have, for example, like it just doesn't cut it sometimes. So Magnetize is just like just super efficient 1 mana, like possible like kill card basically, because you're gonna bring them to where you're dominating, right? So you're gonna kill things effectively. And similar to what Atlanta was saying, where you can with a Cybro, where you ruin positionings when you do a Cybro's attack. So Magnetize can, in the Lyonar matchup, for example, you'll take away Zeal from them, right? So it helps you win the Lyonar mirror. It gets rid of range units. It just does like a lot for Lyonar, I think. So I expect the card to see a lot of play actually.
Yeah, I could see it also kind of filling the role of like a cheaper lasso. You know, that's like it's very limited, but it's like the when you want to get rid of that like cheap unit away, like it has a little bit more utility than potentially a true strike, but you could also use it to pull in like their mana forger or something that's trying to hide in the back and kill it really easily with your general. So it could also feel like that kind of easy role for them too. But yeah, it definitely interesting card. And speaking of line art changes, we actually have a bunch this patch. We have Lionheart's Blessing, which is actually getting its cost lowered from 1 to 0. Tempest, which is actually going to have its damage upped to 3 instead of 2 damage from previously. And then also Elix Stormblade actually is going to get buffed a little bit, going from a 6/6 to a 7/7. Atlanta, what effect do you think these changes are going to have for the Lionar faction and their players?
So I guess the first one I'll touch on, since it's I think the most impactful change, or at least most significant, is the Tempest change. And although it is a very symmetrical effect, so it's going to actually be really hard for any kind of mid-range or non-control Lionar to use it effectively as a kind of like a positive tempo play. But you could definitely use it to get rid of really difficult board states for Lionar normally, or at least how Lionar used to be, where you might get swarmed off by a bunch of 3 HP units. And so it'll help you at least reset the board state. Like, so you could play Tempest to clear all their weenies, and then play a big guy or a bunch of your own weenies. Most likely going to have to be a big guy though, which is why I think that it's mostly a buff to control. Because if you're running things that die to your own Tempest, you're going to have a harder time using Tempest efficiently without killing your own guys. So, with that being said, that definitely pushes Lionar control in a better direction as far as what they can do, because now they have a removal that actually will work on a board, whereas before you had them being able to mostly dodge Tempest, mostly dodging Decimate, which I think also got improved with the addition of Magnetize rather, because you could magnetize something to your general, move 1 square back, and Decimate to remove anything. So, or at least anything without provoke. And so you have a little bit more removal options as control. But as aggro, with the 0 mana Lionheart busting change, you can actually put this card in your aggro deck and expect not to take a tempo hit whenever you want to draw cards. And yeah, it'll still be bad if they remove it, or remove a creature that you put on it if it didn't attack yet or something like that. You tend to get more value out of it if you pre-cast it on a unit before it attacks, but it's more likely that you also get 0 value out of it. So it's still a tough card to use properly, but you can always make it so it at least draws you 1 card. You just have to play it a little bit more safely. So overall, I like it. I like that change because it makes it so that Lionar's not so mana gated when it comes to spells, because that tends to be one of their weaknesses, is that their spell costs really hinder their ability to push their own board forward. And so that also includes their card draw cards rather, that their mana cost really hinders their ability to play to win. And the Elix Stormblade change, I think, it's nice. I'm not quite sure how good it will be, because at 6 mana, having a provoke is nice, but the factions that get you low enough that you need a provoke by 6 are probably going to be able to bypass that provoke on 6. So I'm not too sure if the provoke is really super relevant compared to the movement effect that you would want from it, but those two are kind of competing ideas in terms of what you want, but they do kind of get you there in the same way. The provoke roots their general in place and all your minions can catch up. Seems like a pretty good change overall. At least the stat line increase is really nice, and the general movement also quite relevant in the later phases. And if it lives, if you can get multiples on the board, that would be really nice. And it might be more possible now with the 7/7. So, pretty happy with the Lyonar buffs.
Yeah, Elman Beastio. I mean, I kind of want to ship this out to both of you, but I'll have Elman Beastio start. Have you guys seen anybody like really try to like utilize Elix? Because you were talking about like, you know, like it's kind of like, okay, like don't really know if I want to provoke, but has anybody actually used it to kind of close distance before? Now they have a lot of stuff that pulls you towards them. Like, is this a card that anybody's tried to actually leverage in your guys' experience? Has it worked out? Has it not?
Oh wait.
You want to go first?
No, he went to you. My bad.
um, I so Elix is something that I found really it has a nice power, but one thing that really threw me off from it was so she used to be a 7/7, right? And she had a healing ability. So now she's back to the 7/7, but she has kept her keywords, right? And so I like the 7/7 because I remember immediately when she was 6/6, he just died to Frenzy plus Greater Fortitude against Magmar. I remember that happening exactly the first game after the patch hit and she became 6/6. So I just found that like super hilarious, but at the same time, like I noticed how that one health, one attack matters so much because if she lives by 1 HP, something else will probably have to fight her and take 7 damage back. So one health sometimes makes a huge difference. But on the keyword itself, on the sorry, on the not the provoke, the extra text, um, what I found was like because moving diagonally counts as 2 movement, if people position diagonally from you, they still sometimes get to kite you properly because you don't reach them. Like you can't actually move like enough sometimes. So it was kind of weird. It's like it's sort of comparable to how the efficiency drop when you silhouette tracer. When you move side to side is so much better than trying to move up and down kind of thing. That sort of deficiency is kind of what I noticed when I went diagonal with Elix. I get one movement, so it will go like up, down, up, or sorry, up, right, up, or whatever. Like it, it's like limited. So that was my kind of issue with it. But when I lost the stats and the diagonal kiting still happens, I just didn't like it anymore. So it was just hard to make it work.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I feel like that's kind of probably the issue that's held her back. I'll be interested to see how she works in this new format where there are more tools to bring people to Lyonar now. I'm kind of interested to see how Magnetize gets played and all that jazz. But there are some new cards in the works. We have Healing Mystic and Blind Scorch as well. Healing Mystic going from a 1/4 and now going to be a 2/3, and then Blind Scorch getting its costs lowered from 2 to 1. But the text is being changed to until end of turn, so now you're only going to be able to stifle them for a turn. Element Bestial, what do you think these changes make for, again, like, healing for a faction as a 2-drop with Healing Mystic, and then also like Blind Scorch? Because Blind Scorch is a card that kind of got like responded to, and a lot of players were like, whoa, like why is the cost being raised? I didn't feel like this was strong, and now it's kind of being brought back, but also with the caveat that the 0 is no longer permanent for those factions. What are your thoughts on those cards?
I saw Healing Mystic. The stat line, the 2/3 has always been kind of like the efficient low cost stat line because it survives general attacks, but it deals just enough damage. Like at least the 2/3 plus the general can kill another 2/3. Usually 3/2 just dies to the general, so that's less desirable than 2/3. So 2/3 has kind of become like the like I guess de facto stat line or whatever. So, but that compared to the 1/4 that it used to be, it's just 1/4 doesn't offer enough of a threat to generals. They kill them in 2 hits, but like any 2/3s with the general again, like the team of double 2s tends to be really efficient at removing 1/4s. So kind of just get Healing Mystic to heal and then die immediately. That's not what you want for 2 mana. Like, but now that it has a better stat line, it could actually be kind of relevant. Like, it could be like a more like desirable 2-drop because there's factions that still don't have healing. Like Petruvian lost their healing a while back when they Fountain of Youth. Banner has never had healing, so that's really relevant because it could mean the difference between being hit for lethal next turn or not. And also, just healing units can sometimes be relevant. Sorry, because they just survive removal, right? And then obviously they gain more value out of that. So it's just the style line. The 2/3 has just become so like staple, so like based on like how general attacks affect the board. It's just how it is. Like, and on blind scourge, it's kind of so basically you compare blind scourge to hard removal, right? Like on the low end of the curve, you usually tend to have like whip, just either conditional removal or weaker removal kind of things. But blind scourge is a card that is actually super effective if it hits the right targets. So like if you if you blind scourge like a Vorpal Reaver, what do you have to do? You have to like dispel your own Reaver to get the 6 stack back. Like that's super efficient on the Vitruvian. He wasted 2 mana, possibly shuts down like a big threat, and it's just so efficient. And often you can't even afford to do that, the spell that you the blind scourge. So it effectively ends up killing minions for 2 mana in many cases. So it's actually like a lot better than people think it is. So that's why like the uproar about it, right? But just like a really efficient card. But this change here, like it makes it so you kind of have to deal with the creature. Like you won't take strike back because right they don't have any attack, but you can't just like leave creatures floating the board, right, and like ignore them, because that affects how Star's Fury plays out. If a lot of 0-power creatures are left around the board, then they're causing you to die because you have too many creatures as the opponent of the Vitruvian, which is like even better than removal. It's removal that sets up lethal later because they'll get a better Star's Fury. So there's like a lot of like it affects a lot actually.
Atlanta, do you have any other thoughts on these cards? Like anything that you want to point out from your experience since you've been playing a little Vitruvian lately?
Well, I guess at least for the blind scourge change, it is a nerf for the most part, but there is one, or actually there's a few instances where it could be more useful. So one is if you use it on a unit that you steal Zenry, it's 1 cheaper. So, and the effects will wear off, so you get the full unit after blind scourge wears off.
Ooh, sexy.
So for some of the bigger units that you would be able to steal before, it would be useless for you afterwards because you stole it after you removed its damage. So now you remove its damage, steal it, it gets the damage back, and then you have a full unit. So that's, I guess, the only case where blind scourge is stronger, which, I mean, it's nice in the sense that that change doesn't make blind scourge overall oppressive, and it also makes it so if you make a blind scourge Zenry deck, that is specifically what you're doing, and not just like blind scourge everything then steal everything. You can now only do it in one go. I don't think it's the worst change in the world as far as that's concerned, although I'm sure that there's lots of other stuff that Vitruvian needs to get changed in order for them to be more online with other factions power-wise, because they're definitely really strong right now, but they're also really expensive to craft, and their effects tend to be like very polarizing. Either you have a really good game-ending Time Maelstrom, or you Time Maelstrom to move 2 squares. So
Exciting.
There's also that kind of stuff. So it'll be interesting to see like, what other changes we have for Vitruvian coming up, and also because if other things that can affect that kind of balance of, say, if the buff to Lyonar, for instance, like if that buff to Lyonar was in the last tournament, then maybe the tournament results would have been different. So it's definitely significant changes for this patch.
Yeah, well, we do have another significant change, and probably the biggest change that everybody is going to herald coming in this patch, and that is Gauntlet. You can see it. It's beautiful here. There's going to be a draft mode coming in this patch. We're going to get a chance to see it now. It's probably going to come probably Wednesday or Saturday, so it's going to be a little bit delayed in this patch, so it won't be right off the bat, but it's coming. It's here. It's slated to come in. So from your guys' standpoint, like, are you guys super hype about this? Element Bistio, like, are you super hyped for some Gauntlet action now?
Oh hell yeah. Um, it's really hard to, or I guess it's not hard because draft is like, uh, draft is kind of common, but we'll see how the gauntlet turns out. It's like I've played draft in other games, and there's always this like, um, there's like this like discovery of the whole game because the meta, like what cards are good, what you pick, like you just basically take your brain and like cut it in half and relearn the game, and you're gonna have like probably like your gauntlet like uh ideas and theories and like experiences, and then like your ranked ideas and experiences. And it's always super fun to like go through the motions of like playing playing draft and comparing, playing draft, comparing, and everyone has like their own experience. So it's just super fun. Like just the discovery process of it, it's like super awesome.
Atlanta, are you taking like a permanent vacation from terrorizing the ranked ladder, and you're gonna jump into the gauntlet ladder? Is that what I foresee in your
Yes.
future?
Yes. This is what I've been waiting for so long. And especially if the gold rewards are reasonable enough so that I can go infinite, then I'm just going to go infinite in Gauntlet, and or hopefully go infinite. I mean, it's hard to tell. It's a different game format, but I'm very good at this sort of stuff, I would have to say. So I'm really excited to play a Gauntlet type format, and so I'm very excited, very excited.
Well, I think besides tolerating and playing against Songhai, you're pretty much good at everything I've witnessed so far. So I imagine you'll be pretty successful at this too, buddy. So with that, I mean, I guess that's gonna wrap up this ginormous patch. If you guys haven't had a chance to go check it out, I did do another Bloodborne episode with Elman Bistio. You can check out, and also talked with him a little bit about another summoning deck and kind of how to try out new decks in the meta. So that's something you can definitely look forward to. Go check those out on the channel, as well as leave us. We had a lot of comments last patch rundown. Leave us your comments, give us your likes, let us know like what you would like to see in these, and like in if there's something great that we can deliver on, we'd love to add it to the show. So thanks a lot to you guys for giving us feedback and kind of adding in and keep leveling this up as we go along. And of course, thanks to Elman Bistio and Atlanta for always joining me. Those guys are all stars, the real talent of the show. So with that, we're going to be out, and catch us next week.